Warning: this program may contain explicit language that may be considered offensive or inappropriate to children and some adults.
The following content is intended for mature audiences only.
Good evening, good afternoon, how y'all doing and what's up? Welcome to Talk It Out. I'm your host today. My name is Positivity. It's actually T, but I'm going to go by that one. We're going to have an awesome time tonight, and I am so excited that you guys are here with us. And I have to do this because it's my favorite thing that Duryea does. So even though he's not here, I got to let him know, welcome to Talk It Out, where we talk it out. Okay. Now that I've gotten over my awkwardness, I want to welcome everybody here, and I also want to welcome in the panelists that will be joining us tonight for our conversation. We're going to have a good time talking about conscious parenting. I have kids. Some of the fellow panelists have kids, and so I'm excited what we talk about tonight, and I'm excited what we come up with. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and bring in one of our returning panelists. We're going to go ahead and bring in Mr. Danny Yoon. Danny is a storyteller and a writer working for Catalyst Game Labs, where he leads development of Shadowrun RPG official campaign. He's also the content director for Rem Alternis, a creative media outlet. They recently published the first part of his graphic series, Coddlesworth's Clockwork Circus, this past winter, and you can find Danny on Twitter at Coddlesworth. What's up, Danny?
Hey, what's going on? Nice to see you.
Cool. How was your day?
It could be better. I got a toothache. I got to get a root canal. So, that's, but hey, I still have teeth. So,
I mean, root canals are fun. I said no one ever.
So, but we're good. We're good. And, we're excited to talk about conscious parenting and then whatever else you've picked out for current events. So,
oh, yeah, I'm excited about that. There's some shenanigans happening out here in the streets. The next returning panelist we're going to bring in is Dr. Tanya Davis. Dr. Tanya Davis specializes in training and education and has strong feelings about information literacy and Gen X regarding social media. You can follow her on Twitter at Tanya Davis 1975 and her podcast called The Wind and the Rain that can be found on all major podcast platforms. Welcome, Dr. Davis. Oh, we can't hear you.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Oh, there you go. Wait, yeah, it was just your mic was away from your face, I guess.
Ah, gotcha. I was just saying it's nice to be here tonight, and I'm glad to see everybody.
All right.
Awesome. Did you have a good day as well?
Actually, yes, and I'm still riding a high from a party I had this weekend where I celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary. It was great.
Hey,
nice. Congratulations.
That's awesome. I'm trying to get there. Me and my husband just had our anniversary yesterday.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Word. 25 years is an accomplishment, and you're not in jail. And look, you still have all your hair. Look at that. The next panelist that we're going to bring in is Chris Steele. Chris is from Georgia, and he works in HR at the University of Georgia. You can find him every other Monday on our sister podcast called Geeking Out. Hi, Chris.
Let me unmute. Sorry. Hi. Thank you guys for letting me be here. Yeah, this is fun.
Oh, yeah. We always have a good time here. Let's see. Hopefully everybody is present and accounted for. Next panelist that we're going to bring in is Miss Samantha Hardin. Sam was Atlanta born and bred with two beautiful daughters, and I can attest to that. They're absolutely gorgeous. She has an edibles business called Marley Bears that focuses on the on making THC-infused gummy bears, and she is a realtor. She is the go-to agent for the Atlanta real estate market. Before getting into real estate, she was an educator and founded the dance department at a local Atlanta charter school, KIPP Atlanta Collegiate. Besides her interest in cooking, real estate, and dance, she loves the water and is a mermaid at heart, as am I. Welcome, Sam. What's up, my homegirl from high school?
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be here as always. I love being on these panels, and I know I said I'm a mermaid at heart, but guess where I'm at?
Where? Where you at?
The beach. I'm at the beach, so we're headed back to where we're staying. But when I get there, I'll show y'all my view from the
Don't, because I'm gonna just have an attitude.
Thanks.
Don't, because I'm gonna have an attitude. I'm gonna have a big attitude, and so and it's a lot of beach in New Mexico, but ain't no water to go with it. So
what? So you live okay? So my sister lives in Mexico, like Mexico City, and then my other sister, she married into a very wealthy family, so they have like a condo on the beach. So that's where we're at now. And so I'm getting.
That's disrespectful.
I'm getting to see.
That is disrespectful.
So
do you see my view right now? This is just some freaking
wait
backyard.
Wait till y'all see my view, because we went to the oyster bar. We're actually coming back from the oyster bar. We had like raw oysters and like crab and like happy hour prices. It was amazing. And when you see my view, like, because right now I'm just in the car, so wait till you. I'm gonna give y'all some beach vibes and some beach views.
Don't.
Because it's
don't. I don't even. How I put you on mute? That's okay.
I feel
we're gonna bring in the next. We're gonna bring in the next panelist because I'm in my feelings right now.
I'm trying to spread the joy. I'm trying to spread the
nah, girl.
like,
no. Mm-mm. If I can't stick my toes in the sand and in the water, I don't want none of your ocean views. No, I'm kidding. Our next returning panelist is Ruth. Ruth is a libertarian / conservative member of the Facebook group Politically Provoked and is new to online political discussion. She listens to a variety of independent media ranging from Ben Shapiro to Vosh and reads local news articles as well as what Google or Facebook recommends. Welcome, Ruth. We just gonna straight act like Sam ain't here right now because she's bragging about the beach. How is your day?
My day was good, and I was interested. You said you live in New Mexico. I actually come from New Mexico, so I'm.
Where?
Albuquerque area.
Okay, I live in Alamogordo.
Oh, that's cool. I've been down there. It's a cool city.
It is.
There's a lot of sand.
It is a lot of sand. That's about it. No, it's neat-ish here. I do love New Mexico, though. I've lived here for the last 10 years, and the fact that I can turn in a full circle and see mountains everywhere is absolutely why I love it and why I'm still here. That looks like it's everybody. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and hop into these current events.
Hey, everybody. My name's Chris.
I'm Duryea.
I'm Ricky Z.
Justin.
And Julian.
Have you heard about Anchor.fm? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. First off, it's free.
Oh, I love free, especially when we're talking creation tools that allow you to record and edit right from your phone and computer.
And Anchor will actually distribute your podcast for you. So as soon as you're finished recording, you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms.
And you can make money off of your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's basically a one-stop shop for everything you need. So head on over to anchor.fm and download the mobile app now. And make sure you come back and geek out with us.
I'm excited to be in a show with them finally.
Oh, wow. It has been a while. For Color Girls was the last show. We were all...
That was the first show.
10 years ago.
Yes.
Oh, no. Don't delete that out.
that was pre Whoa Nelly Media, but
Yes.
it was in fact a Duryea Rashad production.
Yes.
So there
It's
you
the
go.
first time we did a show
I
together.
know.
Babies.
We
Full
were
circle.
babies. So we'll really see how much we've grown. That'd be great. Yeah, I love it.
So here we are. So excited. It's great.
All right. I hope everybody got a chance to see our local celebrity Chris on the commercial. One time for the one time.
Oh gosh, I hate that commercial so much. Is that I say and I've never said the word "and" like that in my life, except on that commercial. Maybe I have, but
You know, we only do the stuff that's regular to us.
okay, yeah, yeah. It was fun to see my friends also from college in the Destiny, what's it called? Something Destiny. The commercial we just saw.
Yes, Chasing Destiny.
Chasing Destiny. Those are three of my friends from college. We all went to school together. I love all those girls.
Flirting with Destiny. We all wrong. Just all messing it up. I'm sorry. My bad, Whoa Nelly Media.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be so good though. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, hopefully that I get the opportunity to I want to wait until everything is done so I can binge it and be like, because I get high anxiety waiting on stuff every week. Grey's Anatomy has ruined me. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right into these current events. The first thing we're gonna talk about is Russell Simmons came ready for it today. He was like, no more Mr. Nice ex-husband. He came and put his petty boots on because he is suing his ex-wife right now, Miss Kimora Lee. I don't know if her last name is currently. There's been a lot happening with her. But he is suing her for her husband currently had a court case and a lawsuit against him where he was going to prison for something about money laundering or something, he was stealing money. And so Russell Simmons has a energy drink company, and Kimora was taking half, 50% of his money and using it towards her current husband's court fees and to pay his debt so that he wouldn't have to go to jail. And I just want to know how many people that have been married is oh yeah, you can still stay on half of my business endeavors.
I mean, I guess the question is it above board or not, right? Is she stealing the money, or is she just taking money that was hers because she's still involved to do a thing? And that's what it's about. If you're stealing money, it doesn't matter what you're stealing it for, right? You're stealing money. If it's your money and you're not stealing it, it doesn't matter what you use it for. It's your money. So I guess that's really just where the question lies.
He said she stole it. That's what he said.
Well, on top of that, wasn't it to pay for his bail fees when he got in some kind of legal trouble?
For the same thing.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That sounds very problematic.
Yep.
Yeah. This is what he said. This is a quote directly from him. Throughout my entire decades-long partnership with you, and he was talking about Kimora, I've done everything and anything to protect and promote our family. I have never said no to any requests and have always gone against my own counsel to offer up much more than any judge would ever require of me in order to keep the peace, he allegedly wrote, before adding, I am shocked and saddened to see how your side has behaved in response to my repeated attempts to get an agreement from you to rightfully and legally reaffirm my 50% of the Celsius shares, which have been locked up with the government after being used for your husband's bail money. Neither one of their representatives have responded since then. And that's just wild to me. If you guys can't have maintained a business relationship for the past, 20 years at this point, because there was baby fat and all of that jazz that happened way back when I was a kid, and probably many other business endeavors that they've had. Why now would you risk the business partnerships? Because he is very well connected with so many people, and his hands are in so many different pots. Why would you risk that business relationship for the personal stuff that you got going on?
Is it possible that he needed his name back in the news? I don't know. Maybe that's not it.
No, his name has been in the news recently, just not for good stuff.
Oh.
he got accused of some Bill Cosby-esque type things.
Oh no.
Here last year, or at least I believe in like the last 2 years or so. And so he's been laying pretty low since those accusations popped up. But I don't blame him personally. Like, run me my money. That's your husband. I need to figure it out on your own.
I see low key that Sam is like showing off her all the palm trees in the background as she comes up into this place. She's just like waving the phone around just a little bit, see where I'm at. I see you.
I feel disrespected and
You know,
unconsidered.
I gotta flex a little bit. You know, it's not every day I'm at the beach, at a condo on the beach.
I feel you.
You know what? That's disrespectful. But since you're on vacation, we can go ahead and talk about the next thing that I wanted to bring up. Was the CDC has changed their mask policies about the pan cocoa. All right, so what they're saying now is that if you're fully vaccinated, that you don't have to wear a mask in a outdoor or indoor location, and you have to be, the only caveat to that is that you have to be willing to voluntarily show your vaccination card, because they cannot force you or make you show it to them, because that part is like a HIPAA violation. And so if people have to voluntarily do it, if they decide not to voluntarily show, like, our place is gonna make them mask up. And then you have places like Target, and there were a couple Macy's and a couple other stores that are gonna allow people to start coming in unmasked. And I've read some posts where people have talked about, like, oh, I live in New Jersey and they already came through with it. As soon as that CDC said no masks, they just stopped right there. They're not checking people at the door. They're not asking for no cards. They just like, oh, welcome to Target. Come on, bring your germs.
I will say in Georgia, it's kind of the same way. I've seen, it was like freedom, freedom. Everybody went outside with no mask and they were like, hello world. That's just what I've seen recently. But you know, in a public crowded area, I'll still wear a mask. I'm one of the very few people and I'm fully vaccinated. So I don't like feel like I absolutely have to, but just for the comfort and safety of people who may not be vaccinated fully yet, and you know, all that, I try to be sensitive to the whole situation. So in crowded areas, I will wear a mask. Now, I have been to the office recently, you know, and in the office, they, you know, since the CDC had those guidelines, you know, they've adopted the same guidelines, so you don't have to wear a mask in the office. And since I know all of those people, and I've been around them, you know, off and on every few weeks, because we have like a rotational schedule, that, you know, I feel comfortable not wearing a mask in the office. But, you know, that's something that I feel comfortable with. There are other people that, you know, wear their mask all the time in the office. So it's just kind of a personal thing. But yeah, Georgia as a whole, sorry, I went on a little tangent. Georgia as a whole, I feel like did literally like a huge happy dance as soon as that came out and said, yes! Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But, you know, I'm fully vaccinated, so I feel comfortable. I'm fine. But, you know, there are people that I feel like that have taken it, you know, that you know, haven't had the vaccine, that have been like, yes, gung ho, no more mask, and you know, they may still be at risk. So,
I mean, even with the vaccine though, you're still at risk.
I just
No.
don't trust people.
It really reduces the risk. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, isn't it like 99%, 95% effective? So I don't know. I'm in Kansas, so they haven't been super strict with the mask policy pretty much ever. So I got vaccinated a couple weeks ago and I haven't been wearing it. So it's fine.
Well, I mean, because the virus is ever evolving and they're constantly pushing policy like, oh, you might have to get a booster in like a year. Oh, this strand has mutated, but we gave you a vaccine for the old strand. So
Well, how is it
I mean,
mutating if everybody's wearing masks?
I mean,
the
that's
masks. I mean, yeah, I know. I agree. It's probably mutating, but that's just how viruses do. It's a virus. It's gonna
like
virus.
Everybody should just been free.
Yeah.
Be free. Let everybody get sick, and then
yeah,
that you built up antibodies.
Yeah, honestly.
One of the things that worries me a little bit is that we're doing really good in the U.S. right now, but India is not, and this is a small planet. It all travels extremely fast before you know it. So I'm a little bit concerned for us taking a little too much, being a little too free with not wearing masks. And I'm guilty of not wearing my mask sometimes because I'm fully vaccinated. And right now in my community, we seem to be okay. But you don't know if you're really okay until it's too late.
But the masks aren't even that effective.
If you double up on your mask, it's better. You know, nothing is 100% unless you stop breathing. But
well, I mean, that would be the ultimate solution.
I wore a mask and I didn't get COVID, so that's like how proof works, right? For a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't wear a mask sometimes, and I also didn't get COVID. So you know what? I don't know if we can determine.
I wouldn't say that it is that the masks were the deterrent for people getting COVID. It was that everything shut down.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So
I would.
There was
if you're not around
contact
people,
with other people, if you're seeing the same people that you normally see, and you don't have the opportunity to be introduced to other germs, then of course you aren't gonna get COVID.
Yeah,
because you weren't around anybody except everybody are in your home. And I mean, again, I'm not opposed to wearing a mask. I wear mine because in New Mexico you have to.
Yeah.
Or you
they
get
have like
fined.
They have like
Stores
$100 fine there.
Up to 5.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of a question I have for people who, just whoever is like, I don't think masks or I don't care about masks or whatever. It's kind of like this. It's like, look, we just made it as a joke, right? Like I wore a mask, I didn't get it. I didn't wear a mask, I didn't get it. And that's, and that's, we're joking around about it. But the reality is like, if you're not wearing a mask, 100%, there's no extra protection, right? Like there's nothing because you're not wearing a mask. You're just being normal. If you are wearing a mask, maybe there's a lot of protection because the people who say wearing masks are correct. Maybe you're right, and it doesn't do anything for anybody. Who knows?
I think like N95 masks are effective, maybe the surgical ones, but I think from what I've read, the cloth masks are really they're really hit and miss. Especially if it's just like a handkerchief tied over your face,
Yeah. I mean, but my point though is that like it's almost like the Vegas version of avoiding COVID. Like you can hedge your bets, right? If I'm not wearing a mask, it's just like I'm just out there. But if I put on a mask, maybe it works, maybe it don't. Roll some dice.
It's important.
But at least there's a chance.
Sorry.
I mean, but you could also just never go outside, and you got to live.
I think it's also important to remember that the mask is to protect other people, not necessarily so much yourself. So you're preventing a lot of spittle and other germs that are in your mouth from going further out than they normally would without the mask. So keeping that in mind, one of the things that in my office area at work that we're extremely concerned with is one of my coworkers just found out in the last few months that he has leukemia, and keeping him from getting sick is pretty important to all of us that know him and love him. So for that reason, it's good to wear masks.
Yeah, I definitely around like people that are older or have serious conditions. Think that makes sense.
Sure.
Well, for me, at the end of the day, I don't trust people. Like this country has shown that there are so many people who just don't give a shit about me, like at
Right.
all. And they don't give a shit about you, and they don't give a shit about anybody that isn't them and what they want in that moment, and how they want to just experience whatever. So, I like Bruce said, Kansas, they're not doing it. They don't care. Even in the worst parts of it, with all the signs, you still go into the grocery store and there's still people just like walking past, and the guy's like, "Hey, you gotta have it," and they're just like, "Shut up," and they just keep going, and then no one does anything about it because they even the store doesn't really, the employees in the store don't really care. They're just like, we're doing it because we have to. So if he walks in, we're just someone will yell at us and we'll go, what are we supposed to do? So
Again, I live in like small town, middle of nowhere, one Walmart. Well, we have a Walmart market, so I guess that counts as 2 Walmarts. But like, no, you can't just walk in there with no mask on because they will stop you and tell you that per the governor's ordinance, you have to have on a mask.
New Mexico is hardcore.
Mask on? Do you have to keep that mask on? Is somebody inside, if you don't have your mask on once you're in there, going to be like, you need to put your mask on? There might be a person that does not work there, and said person may or may not get punched in the face. But to get into the store, to be admitted in, you have to wear a mask here, and they are everywhere here. From
right,
you have to wear a mask to walk into a restaurant, which is stupid to me because you take it off to eat.
Yeah, you take it off like 10 seconds
but
later.
you just wear it inside, right? So they're at least enforcing that much.
Yeah, there's a lot of rather silly enforcements. I don't really care that much. I think it should just be left to stores or whatever. It's not,
And now that the CDC has come out with more information about how good we're doing in general across the U.S., we can do that where stores allow it, where the individual stores allow it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, but then again, we have places like Target and Macy's that are opening up, but they cannot enforce the presenting of your card.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think is. I don't think they should be able to. That's.
But now you don't have to wear a mask.
And
how do you prove that you're not vaccinated if you don't?
Why should you have to prove it? That's just silly.
Because that's what the CDC is saying.
Because
40% vaccinated.
The reason you have to prove it, this is why. 40% of Republicans polled are saying they will not get the vaccine. And these are the exact same people who will say that they got the vaccine and go out without a mask. They're the same people. That's just what it is. They're the same ones who have been crying about masks the whole time, don't want to wear a mask, and then you're giving them an out. And I'm not saying all 40% of those people would do it. Maybe they'd be like, well, I gotta, obey the laws or whatever. But there's going to be a large percentage of those 40%, which is still hundreds of thousands of people, that will just be like, I didn't get the vaccine, but I'm just going to go and say I got it. And if they want me to pull my car, I'll be like, fuck you, you can't make me.
Okay. It's not your business.
It is my business if you're getting me sick.
I mean, why is it not?
You got vaccinated. You fine.
I mean,
Am
what
I?
I'm saying is, so I saw this.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the vaccine.
You got the vaccine.
Am I fine?
So
what's the point of the vaccine if you're not fine?
What were you saying,
I mean,
Sam?
the point of the vaccine is if everyone gets it, then it works. But at a certain point, if not enough people get it, it does not work.
But I think
Right.
tons of people are getting it.
Oh, yeah, tons, but there is statistically a certain number that if we don't reach it, it doesn't matter. That's
Well, then why don't you want that? Then all the Republicans will just all catch it and die. So then your problem will be solved.
But actually, not enough of them will.
Just have antibodies against it.
And it's not really about just Republican. I'm just saying, but if to go that route, like I don't want that to happen either. But they won't all catch it and die.
No one wants
exactly because it's it's not the Black Plague.
It's not the Black Plague, but I know people who have lost people they love that that wouldn't have died if it weren't for COVID. How many of those is enough or okay?
There's also people that, if they hadn't driven today, wouldn't have died in a car crash, but that doesn't mean we stopped driving cars.
Yeah, but it does mean that we did seatbelts, we did airbags, we made speed laws, we did all these things, right? So that less people would die. So our society functions a certain way. It's got to have cars and transportation. So that risk we take, and there's a cost to that risk that we take. Okay, got it. So the same thing with COVID. That's what I mean. It's like, wear a mask. What's so hard about that? If possibly it could reduce the amount of deaths by
400,000
It makes me
roundabout.
That's what's hard about it. I want to be able to breathe. I live in New Mexico. It was 90 degrees today. 90, and we're not even in summer. It's still spring. It's 90. And if I walk outside, I gotta have on a mask. For what? For somebody else to feel comfortable.
In the middle of New Mexico
to save someone's life.
Meanwhile, I'm huffing and puffing, trying to do my little jog so I can stay in shape for somebody else's life to be saved. When really, get out my face. I'm trying to run. It's hot. I don't want this mask on. But I'm
someone else's life to be
saved.
saved.
T, it's not even that, right? I just feel like, okay, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like from the beginning of time, women's bodies have been regulated. When we go to school, we can't wear, certain skirts, certain shorts, certain tank tops. Like from even the beginning of when we even went to school, we could not wear and do certain things. And even now in government, it's a question of, and people can say what they want to say, I get it. But at the end of the day, it's still a woman's body. It's still like, you don't even want to wear a mask.
Oh no, I'm saying it's hot outside.
Are you saying that you agree with oppressing women? Interesting take.
I'm saying I don't want to have my mask on outside at 90 degrees if it's raining.
And I think that is a perfectly reasonable position. I know how that New Mexico summer gets.
But I wear my mask if I'm going into a store because that's what the law says I should do. So I'm
the law says you should. The law says you should do both, right?
Have been.
But yeah, my personal feelings about it don't have anything to do with me still having to go to Walmart. Now, if I don't want to wear my mask, then I just don't get out my car and I have them come deliver my groceries to my trunk. You're in my personal space, and then that's 6 feet away from me, so I still don't have to put a mask on. You ain't coming to talk to me. You're going to drop my groceries.
Wasn't there something that came out recently? Wasn't there a study recently that the 6 feet was kind of arbitrary? That it didn't. I saw a study somewhere that said that the 6 feet was kind of just an arbitrary rule.
There's a lot of studies, and so you always have to remember when you're looking at a quote-unquote study, you've got to definitely check the sourcing on that, because there are lots of groups out there that sound official.
I want to say it was like Harvard or something.
And they purposely do it.
It wasn't just like some weird...
Right, and then actually look into it. So I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying that a lot of different people say a lot of different things, right? And so there are people who say things that are in support of masks, but even that stuff is suspicious, because it's just people that are still working off their biases and just trying to prove their biases rather than actually doing the science. So
I agree with that. There are definitely biases towards masks that are really anti-science, like wearing one outside when it's 90 degrees out and there's nobody around.
If there's nobody around and you're outside on your run, don't wear your mask.
Depending on where you are.
Depending where you are, that is a law.
So if you're in a place.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not like what the law is. This is
that is the law in some places.
What I am saying is not what the law is.
So you're trying to break the guidelines of the government that's trying to protect you?
Hey. I am giving an opinion.
I know.
Okay? So, and you are putting words in my mouth. Don't do that. Okay.
Oh, we lost Sam.
So, if you are outside, this is as a person who believes that masks are a thing we should be doing, okay? But if you're outside and you're running around, and you're not in a place where it's expected to be a bunch of people that you know are going to be around you, then I don't think you should have to wear a mask because you're not close to anybody. Why do you need to wear a mask outside? So it's not about, and that's just my opinion. I understand
Yeah.
some places have this and some places have that. So, but if you're in a
That's my opinion
grocery
too.
store, if you're in a grocery store where people are got to have to butt up together and stuff, then wear your mask. You know, like I mean, there's
Yeah,
reasonableness that
So
goes
you,
with it.
so you do think that it's possible to form an opinion outside what the government tells you to do?
Yeah. Did I
Okay.
ever indicate otherwise?
Yeah.
When did I indicate otherwise?
You indicated that we have to follow every CDC guideline because it's designed
I
to keep
did
us
not say
safe.
that. We can watch the video back.
Okay.
I don't think that was what he was intending. I think, but I think the bigger.
I'm pretty sure that's
the bigger,
exactly what he meant.
I didn't mention
Okay.
the CDC at all.
Really? Okay.
But
I mean, we can watch
so
the
I think
video
the
back.
biggest takeaway from this though is that even in a panel of 6 people, we're still really like half. Some people are
it's
yes, some people
it's
are
a
no,
polarizing
and
topic.
so right, and so if we as 6 people can't figure out like my heart say I don't want to do this, but legally I have to. Imagine what the CDC looking at each other like, I don't know. Do you know? I don't know either. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to. We gave these people this vaccine, but we really don't know if it's gonna work. We don't know if the mutated thing is gonna like trump the vaccine we gave them. When do we need to start coming out with a booster? Like there are so many things, and so I just find it interesting that it's one of those things that even the CDC can't figure out, right? And Tanya, I've been reading a lot about India as well. They had like something like 42, almost 4,300 cases.
Yeah,
And
it's a
like
lot.
In
a
one
day.
day. In one day. Yeah, that's crazy.
But the thing about that is you have to think about it. India is one of those countries that is one of the largest populated countries in the world. And we're talking about extremely, extremely impoverished people that are,
Yes.
even in the countrysides, they're in large amounts of people, no matter how much open, fresh air there is.
It's
It
dense.
takes 1 or 2 people to get infected and then boom, everybody has it. In places like that, you're not going to get a control on it. You won't. One, because the funding isn't there for it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. The funding is not there for people. I mean, we're talking about India, right? They still have girls
Billions.
that can't go to school because they don't have pads for their menstrual cycles.
Right.
Talking like they don't have sanitary napkins, or they don't get taught about those things, so they can't attend school during those times, and it's already hard for them to go to school anyway. So again, we're talking about a place that's so large with so many more people than us, but we're not ahead of the curve when it comes to the whole COVID thing. We're actually behind the curve.
Yes.
Like so many other countries were doing much more and better than we were in as far as containing COVID. And getting their numbers down. So, I mean, I don't think in a place like India that it will ever not be wild and crazy.
And what you're saying is absolutely right. And I agree with all the facts that you had. I know that to be true myself too. And what my fear is that we think we're doing good, but because we are a small planet, we interact on a global scale, and the traveling back and forth, it could hit us again, and we don't even know it until it's too late.
And that's what everybody got vaccinated for. But this is one of those topics that we could spend the whole 3 hours talking about.
Right.
I'll say this real quick before we move on though, about the vaccination. Like I'll be truthful. Like even as someone who again cares about all this stuff, like I don't 100% trust the vaccine, right? Like I know it's the better route to go, but I don't know that it's going to 100% protect me, right? So when you ask, like, it's almost like a gotcha, right? Like you're like, oh, but you took the vaccine, but the reality is like, yeah, I did that because I'm doing all the things I can to try and make sure that I'm safe and that I keep my family safe, but I don't know, right? So I don't know if the vaccine is going to protect me 100%, or if the mutation is going to come from India and then we're in the same place we were before, right? I don't know those things, and that's why. So,
yeah, totally. I get it, and I think that that's okay. I'm just one of those people. I don't disclose because it's my right that I don't have to. And so if a person does get the vaccine, and if you don't, that's your choice.
I mean, I also agree that
think
your rights are your
that's
rights.
awesome.
I mean, I do agree with that 100%. If I can't demand you to show me out. So when I say like I don't trust people, like that doesn't mean I can still demand them to do anything. Now, if I have a business, I can make my rules about my business, and it says, hey, you either come in masked, you show us your card, or you don't come in, and that's my business, right? Like, and anyone can do that. And so I would be in support of that. But I'm not necessarily in support of Joe Citizen coming up to someone and demanding to get their HIPAA information. Like, like no.
Because then you can see these hands. That's what you can get. But definitely on a lighter topic, I don't know if everybody has seen the trailer for Miss Jennifer Hudson playing our favorite auntie, Aretha Franklin, but I am so excited because Jennifer sings her behind off every single time. Every time she comes,
every time
she delivers. And when I saw that trailer, I was like,
"Was that on HBO Max?"
Incarnate. Now, don't ask me where it's coming out at.
I feel like I may have seen that trailer,
but I saw the trailer on Instagram. So
I saw a picture of it. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I'm about to watch it right after this because I'm so intrigued. Because I live for Jennifer Hudson.
Okay, and it's her voice. It's not Miss Aretha's. It's hers. Like, I stand for Jennifer because she was extremely underrated on American Idol.
Oh my God, she should have won that season, hands down.
Downplayed her talent, and Duryea can say what he want to say. He knows I'm not a Beyonce fan like that. Like, she's cool, she's good at her craft.
Oh, I mean, Beyonce's great, but like
they downplayed her voice so much in Dreamgirls because of Miss Beyonce Giselle Knowles, and her little tantrums. She had to have Listen because J Hud had And You're Gonna Love Me. Listen was not in the original screenplay. Honey, move right along with your feelings. I'm here for the display of the talent that J Hud has, and that we get to see the life of Aretha Franklin. And I am hoping that they put in there what the tea was with her and Patty, because baby, her and Patty was not getting along, and I wish I knew why.
Right? Oh, that would be so
Patty
juicy.
One night after a show,
juicy.
Patty was like, Aretha was like, Patty got my wig on. Ain't that better? See? And then next thing you know, they ain't spoke to each other. And then she went on to be with the Lord. Hallelujah. And I'm just here for it. I'm excited. And another thing I'm excited about is Miss Rihanna has been dating the rapper A$AP Rocky.
What?
She ain't been giving us no
Months
music.
Months now.
What? I'm so behind.
She ain't been giving us no music. She been giving us all this makeup and
clothes, lingerie.
This man, listen, done cut her hair back off and everything with a pixie cut.
Mm-hmm.
I love Rihanna with a pixie cut.
This man on social media talking about that's the love of his life, child.
And she's probably like, why is he putting my business out here for the internet?
First of all, y'all know Rihanna is not here for the sharing of any of her business. Like, don't talk about what's going on in our personal life. But this is like the second interview that he's done. He did one that they had the recording of, and then there was another one that was printed, I think in like GQ or some type of magazine like that, where he was announced as the sexiest man. And
A$AP Rocky was?
Right.
A$AP Rocky. And
Okay.
I saw a comment that sent me right on to be with the Lord. It was Big Frida, and it said, I think they got the words mixed up because it's not sexy. She was like, he cute though. But I think they misworded this.
Right.
But first of all, people are trying to give them all kinds of nicknames. A$AP Anna, A$APiana, or something like that.
No,
trying too hard.
I just want everybody to stop. I want the people to stop. But I mean, does Rihanna have a type?
Rockiana sounds okay.
Okay.
Rockiana.
Rockiana. Yeah,
You can rock with
Graciano.
that a little bit, but like,
Yeah, it's okay. I
whatever.
mean, you know,
Let's normalize not putting couples' names together.
Thank you.
Let's do that.
When did that have to be a
I
thing?
think we should do.
Brangelina.
I think we should do
Yeah.
that
I
though with like
blame them.
two people that like are associated together, whether it's like a romantic couple or even like besties. You know, like you got like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. You can just call them like Bat, Dave Fleck, or you know, whatever. You know, just do it with everybody if you're gonna do it. Why's it got to be romantic?
Yeah, let's not and say we didn't, because that is like such a pet peeve of mine. Would you stop calling these people? I blame Benifer. It was them.
Benifer. It was them
their
first.
fault.
You're
Brangelina and
so
Benifer, yeah.
right.
Mhm.
You're so right. It was Benifer.
Bothers my spirit. But
Did you guys hear they're back together?
Yes.
Child.
Yes.
I know they're back together.
No, because apparently Affleck was creeping up on J-Lo like towards the end of her.
At
and
this point,
his
it's her.
relationship anyways.
It's her. It's her at this point. It's her. A-Rod, Diddy, the little dancer background boy.
Yeah,
Mark. It was Mark.
Mark
I
Anthony.
ain't gonna blame her. I'm not gonna blame her for Mark. It was Mark. but A-Rod, like, no, it's her. She the one.
She the one.
She should go to counseling. She should go to counseling or therapy. Let that thing cool off for a minute, because you men are doing a lot. Okay,
You're doing too much. Do
I
that.
personally, I loved the album that was inspired by Benifer. Her album, what was it called?
Like
something.
the one that "Love Don't Cost a Thing" was on, or
No. She
that
has
was
a
J-Lo's.
song called. She has a song called.
That's not Jenny from the Block,
I
was
Love
it?
You.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's not that album.
Oh, okay.
She has a
That
song
was
called
it.
"I Love You" that she wrote about him. Not gonna look it up
Because Jenny from the Block is when she was with Ben Affleck. J-Lo was when she was with Puffy. So
it's called "This Is
error.
Me Then." Yeah, it's "This Is Me Then," and she had a song called "Dear Ben." Child.
Ooh,
she actually
a direct call out. Direct call out.
She's actually writing songs? What?
Listen, this song is from like 2002. It's always been one of my favorite J-Lo songs. Now, I don't think her voice is absolutely amazing, but on that song, she did her thing, okay?
Aw.
And I'd be aggravating my husband when we'd be like taking trips to like El Paso because it's like an hour away, and I'd be like, I love you. He'd be like, hands off me. But child, if it inspires another album like that, then bring it on, Benifer. Bring it back.
All right. I'm not mad.
Because I'm tired of all her new stuff is trash city. Trash city. Like, ma'am, there's a lane for you, but it's not the one that you're in now. Like, she has that old like Cardi B-ish kind of vibe happening, and let Cardi have her lane, right? Because that's not you, Jenny. That's not you, boo.
I think I stopped like actively listening to her stuff after the J-Lo album. Like, I remember getting On the Six when that first came out. That was the first album, and then I definitely got the J-Lo album, and then somewhere after that I was like, maybe a couple songs here and there, but after that I was not feeling it. I was not feeling her.
Now, what I will say though is what I find extremely interesting about celebrity relationships is how they have to announce to us, like, we're separating. Child, ain't nobody business but yours. Like, just pop up with somebody else. That's your business, but that's between y'all. Y'all don't have to send a press release out to
My
us.
favorite is
like that, but
coupling.
it's a lot of people that don't.
And
they don't pay no bills over here, and I don't pay none of their bills. I can't afford to. So why do they owe me an explanation?
But can we? I mean, are they really 100% to blame? Because like a lot of times it's not that they went and called like, you know, Fox News and said, hey, check this out. This is what's going on. It's like people just are in their stuff all the time.
Right.
And
And people get too invested.
Yeah.
It's not their fault that everyone gets so invested. And then it's like, you know, why haven't we seen you guys out together? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's what
They have
happens.
a million questions. It's like, okay, well, because we broke up. I'm like, what? You know,
And then you gotta dig into, and people are digging into all their stuff, and they gotta like preemptively put out a statement. But my favorite is the conscious uncoupling with Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin. Like, Who thought of that phrase? Conscious
Conscious
uncoupling.
uncoupling.
That's a whole thing.
Oh,
Is that like
episode.
is that called like a friendly breakup?
I
Conscious
mean,
uncoupling, friendly breakup.
conscious uncoupling.
The same
It's like a
people that named
mutual
their child
agreement
Apple.
that's ain't working.
It's okay. I just, even like for regular people, like, you don't owe me an explanation like why your last name changed. Like, that's your business. Now, if you feel like telling me, then yes. But I feel the same way about people on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook right now. I chose to just take a little hiatus and take a breather. I did not make a status informing all of my Facebook friends like, hey, y'all, I just want y'all to know that I need a break because everything has been crazy and this pan cocoa has been driving me up the wall and my kids, and so I'm getting off Facebook for a while. Nobody cares. Don't nobody care. So why do celebrities feel like they owe me an explanation because y'all relationship didn't work? I'm not there in the middle fighting with y'all.
Somebody cares, T. Somebody
I'm just
cares.
saying, somebody. If you with you, somebody cares, and
Somebody cares.
with celebrities, a lot of people who have no business caring care.
There we go. That's it.
Truth.
I mean,
That is
I
it.
could go. Listen, it could be we can take a whole time talking about how much people troll and don't have any. They have so much to say behind the keyboard about these people. But what's so great about your life? Like, I'm not really like
Nothing. That's why I'm all up in these people's business.
Right, but the comments that people be leaving, like, y'all better not break up, or you gonna do what?
Ooh.
Which one of their bills can you afford? You probably
Can
can't
I-
even afford their cell phone bill.
Look, stan culture.
Your salary
is the
can't pay
devil.
their cell phone bill.
Look, stan culture is the devil. I'm telling you, that sounds like some stans that just they are too invested into not even just like a real person's life, a whole like character that like they don't even like, they're not real. Like it's a mess. And so like when you put
how many posts I done read. Especially when it comes to like Rihanna not having come out with no music, I know why she in her relationship. She better come out with some music, or I'm
No, she making money other ways. Y'all are still
Right.
buying her makeup. You're still buying her lingerie. You're still doing all this other stuff. Y'all still streaming her old music. Anti still bops. Y'all are okay. Y'all are okay.
But
No.
then, like, people really feel comfortable to be like threatening. Like, I don't care about her being happy in a relationship. She need to come out with some new music. Like,
Okay, and then she's
when
not
that girl
going
feel
to.
love.
Right, and she's
She
not
been
going
through
to, and she'll be all right.
Yeah, if we're talking about fans are a little out of their mind about how they relate to their celebrities, I'm 100% on board that bus. Like, I agree 100%. I was my only pushback was just sometimes I don't think it's necessarily the celebrities that are like trying to like be all out there, and sometimes they are. Sometimes they just they you know that's the whole Kardashian like business
Right.
model. But yeah,
Right.
so
That is their bread and butter. Yes.
But if we're being
Put it on social
super
media,
honest, also, if we're being super honest, also about Rihanna, I mean, like her music. Not to say her music's not good. It's just like her singing has never is like it's not her voice that's like what everybody's like freaking out about. And so like, and Rihanna, you know, will always have that face and that body and that whatever, or maybe not always, but you know, she'll have it for a little while, but she'll always have that face. But it's not really her singing that like excited me so much, though I love some of her songs. So I mean, like if she never made another album, I wouldn't be like super upset. She can just be Rihanna for the rest of her life, just doing her Rihanna thing.
And keep in mind though, like Rihanna has like what 10, 12 albums, honestly, because
Right.
she
She's got a
was
lot.
popping them out within like the first 5 or 6 years of her being
Jay was
her
like,
singing.
oh no, you gonna make me go.
No, she was
anime,
trying to get all those
get
contracts
back in there.
Right, she was trying to get all those albums that were due to on her contract done over with, so she can do what she want to. No, she's got plenty of content out there for y'all. You're just going to have to deal with some old stuff for a little bit.
Yes, Danny, she will always have that forehead, but she has
Yes,
yes.
I was trying not to be mean. He was like, she'll have that face, she'll have that body. I was like, and she'll always have that forehead too. Here comes the
But now what I will say though is that she does wear hairstyles that complement her forehead. Like the pixie cut, that's it for her.
I love it.
Like,
I
and
love
I
it.
love her with all her different hairstyles. Now, Rihanna could not ever make another album because I never like listened to a whole Rihanna album and be like, oh my gosh,
This is
the
the
music
whole
touched
thing is
my
my
spirit.
jam.
Like, no, as a personally, no. I've listened to a Solange album and been like, I will fight her because every one of these songs like straight.
A seat at the table, yes.
Hadley Street Dreams, I still bump that like it came out yesterday. And it is from like 2008, 2009, okay? But Rihanna, like she has good songs. She makes catchy songs. Not the most amazing singer.
I like Anta the most, but like Solange's A Seat at the Table, I will play that sucker all the way through. On repeat. I do not care. I will play that all the time.
Just wanted to jump in to say hi, Big Papa Fascist. Thanks for watching us. You're crazy, but I love watching your debates on Politically Provoked.
Hey. All right. I guess, yeah.
Shy Ronnie is the best Rihanna song.
Okay.
Just saying.
Hey, Danny's a stan. He's part of the Navy, aren't you, Danny?
Shy Ronnie Part 2.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
I don't know what that is.
No, Danny's a stan.
So look up some Shy Ronnie later and watch it, and then you'll agree that that is Rihanna's best work.
Danny's the low
Rihanna's
stan.
best work. Rihanna's best work was every print she's ever done. That's her best work.
Ooh.
Any photo she's ever taken.
Oh, right.
I can't argue with that. but Shy Ronnie, just YouTube that Shy Ronnie. It'll be up.
Okay.
We'll spend this whole time talking about Rihanna, but before we take another commercial break.
Live theater is back at the Springer Opera House. The Springer Outdoor Theater Festival presents Theater Under the Stars in a new outdoor venue located on site at the Springer Opera House. From hit Broadway musicals to classic children's tales, the festival includes 7 hit shows on stage now through June. For more information, please visit springeroperahouse.org.
Make sure y'all check out Springer Opera House. It is located in Columbus, Georgia, and they are doing some amazing things down there. We've seen some commercials from some shows that they've had that they've previously had, and make sure you guys go out and support, man. The arts need all the help they can get. The pandemic has really been putting a hindrance and a damper on live performances because of all the guidances and everything. So if you are in the Columbus area, please go and check out the Springer Opera House. All right,
100%.
We're about to hop into our main topic, which is conscious parenting. Every time I hear the word conscious, I think of people who are like woke, and then that agitates my spirit because I hate that term. But what I did want to say really quickly is on Talk It Out, we want to make sure that we're giving each other the opportunity to like speak freely and to express themselves, but also to be respectful of your fellow panelists, because yes, everybody has an opinion, but we all want to make sure that all of those things get heard. And parenting can be one of those touchy topics, like a touchy subject, because what one person thinks is acceptable, another person doesn't. So just kind of remember, like, let's keep our emotions and feelings kind of together so we can present ourselves in a good way to have a good conversation and not, a heated debate with somebody. Because for the most part, I have been on panels with all of you guys, and, I've seen some amazing things come out of this, and I learned a lot from you guys. And so I'm saying all that to tie that into parenting, because our kids are constantly learning from us the same way. So my question for everybody that's watching, people in the comments, the panelists is, do you think that spanking is disciplining the child, or do you consider that abuse? Because really what it all boils down to in conscious parenting is how you react once they do something that is opposite of what you think or believe that your child should be doing.
I'll go first. I don't mind. I think once in a while it is acceptable and okay and needed to get their attention when they don't understand anything else. They need to face consequences that maybe hurt a little bit and temporarily. But to do it on a regular basis, there are other ways. Spanking is a last resort. And it's not out of anger, it's to get their attention and say, hey, knock it off. That's
Right.
just my personal view.
I think, as far as my upbringing was concerned, that was kind of the way that my parents used spanking. I mean, I would get threatened. You get 16 threats before you actually got one spanking. But the few spankings that I did get, I remembered, and it did teach a lesson. Sometimes, do I think spanking can go overboard? Yes, I think that. I mean, like. Especially if you're using tools, I feel like it's maybe like a belt or a switch or a spatula, whatever's around, the whatever. Anyways, I feel like it can get a little overboard at that point. But to your point, yes, it did teach me a lesson, and I wasn't listening to the 16 threats that I got, and so I that consequence. But it's a very different climate, I feel like, modernly, because there's such a stigma about spanking, especially in public. I mean, in any sort of public setting, which I feel like parenting it's a truly individual process. So it depends on the child, and it depends on there's so many factors, but to like make such a stigma about it, I feel is kind of wrong, because I do feel also that it can be a tool. Like it's a tool that you can use. I think it should be a last resort, or like a thing that you maybe not pull out in public, but something that can have value. And I don't think it should be so highly stigmatized personally, because I am not traumatized. I feel like I turned out okay. I'm not like in therapy. Maybe I should be. I don't know.
Chris.
So-
I mean, therapy is good all around. Yes.
So my thoughts on spanking is that it can be a useful tool, but and this is just a number I made up in my head. There is nothing to go with this in terms of like, I've not done any studies, but I would say that like 90%, 80%, some huge percentage of people don't use it properly, right? And so it becomes abusive. An example would be my mother, who would just fly off the handle and grab whatever tool was nearby and just start wailing away with it. And she didn't injure us. We never got injured. We never, but we also never learned any lessons. And mostly it was just a way for her to hash out her anger on whatever was going on. So that's an example. But it's also the same example that if you were to kind of show that to people that agree with spanking like 100%, they'd be like, yeah, that's not a problem. They did something bad. She whacked them a couple of times, yeah, like, so that's kind of how I feel about it. My son, based on the question that Ashley asked, hey, I mean, you could say that it sounds like a bad mom. I'm just saying like that's my experience. So, I was there. But with what Ashley Couch is saying, so I have a son that is grown man now. I did spank him a few times. But I always made sure that when it happened, that he knew it was coming, that it wasn't me putting out my anger on him. It was just me taking him to the side and very, very consciously, swatting him on the rear with my hand once, never more than twice, and then standing him up and asking him why that happened, getting the feedback from him that he understood why he got punished, me then telling him that I love him, and then making sure that I spent time with him, to play, and so that he knew that I wasn't angry and that I didn't like hate him or like something. It was just literally, you did a bad thing, you got punished, you understand why, now let's go and be happy and have fun, right? So and that's and to me, like, if people can, and maybe I was more reserved, like I'm not saying like that's as far as you could go and it's okay, but I think there are a lot of people, like when I just see someone in the grocery store just like swatting their kid, like that's that's abusive. It's not accomplishing anything except the parent is frustrated and is taking that out on the child, who might be the source of the frustration, but
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There's this comment here from Ashley. I thought it was really important that we define conscious parenting, and maybe the panelists can share if they're sharing experiences based on being a parent or being parented.
Yeah.
I would say my views about that, or my experiences, are both from me parenting, because I have a son who's about to be 10, and then I have a 1-year-old daughter. And then I have bonus babies. So then parenting has a different aspect there. And also based on how I was parented, it helps me not make decisions and or make decisions. But what is conscious parenting? Honestly, it's just being, for me, it's being aware of my actions and how the reactions that I have to my children's behavior will affect them in the future. And what they see me doing, how that will also affect them.
So
Does anyone
I have
not have kids?
I have 3 of my own plus a stepson.
I don't have any kids, so I'm coming from the just having been parented. I would say, as far as the spanking question, I actually did. It's interesting because I did a research paper on this in college because I had to pick a topic that I could argue either side of. So I did some research there, and I kind of agree with the general consensus here that it can be useful if used in controlled and limited circumstances, not just lashing out in anger, or not wailing on somebody with a frying pan. I think it's probably more useful for maybe younger kids when you don't have the time to you don't necessarily you can't really explain to a 2-year-old all the nuances of their actions. You just kind of need them to learn proper behavior. So I think it's useful in those sort of circumstances, and just not out of control and all the time. And I think especially when kids get older, I think there are probably more effective ways than just beating them. So
Definitely, yeah. Once they start using cell phones and stuff, you can torture them way easier.
Yeah,
way more effectively.
So I think it was Ashley that asked for a solid definition. I've got one here from Today's Parent. I'm guessing it's an online magazine, maybe a paper magazine also, from about a year ago, May 2019. Let me scroll down to what the definition is. So it is rooted in ancient Eastern beliefs as well as Western psychology, according to, I'm going to say this wrong, Tasbury. To be conscious or mindful is to be aware so we can identify the differences between reacting to our children from our own egos and from the calmer, centered state of who we truly are. It's all about the ability to be in the moment in any situation that arises. And when it comes to living in the present, our children are gurus who can awaken us to be real, giving us the gift of awareness and self-expression and deep self-belief. So to me, what that means is that we don't do things from a state of us thinking, oh, we're the parents, we're in charge, we're control. It's about us being
always
right.
parents.
Right. It's about us being parents saying, okay, this is about your learning, your experience as a child. How can I help you control your emotions or decide right from wrong or make decisions based on evidence or whatever that thing is. It's about them, not us.
And also in the process, I mean, that we can learn from them just as much as they learn from us. I mean, we are teaching them as much as we can, but in the process, they're going to share little pearls of wisdom with us that we're like, oh shit, like I never thought about that. Like,
I just
oh
want to say,
wow.
whoever wrote that never had a toddler knock a hot cup of coffee on them right before they had to go to
Oh,
work.
oh, that's so true.
Whoever wrote that has never had their child throw up on them when they was about to walk out the house.
But in that case, so when I think of that that definition and the thought of mindfulness, and like I've been contemplating and debating in my own thoughts process, because I'm a mother of two. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. Like my feelings on spanking, but like looking more into conscious parenting for myself is understanding that your children are not just like your property or just an extension of you. They are actually human beings themselves, even as small babies. Like the way their behavior is a way for them to communicate, such as a way as a baby crying. We are trying to figure out why the baby's crying. Is it hungry? Is it wet? Does it need something? Does it need touch? And they're trying to communicate to us in any way that they know how to during each portion of their lives. And as they get older, they learn to communicate from how we teach them to communicate. And so us being able to show them different ways or more productive ways to communicate, then I think that's what more in the line of conscious parenting is. So like I don't think necessarily about like controlling their emotions, but I'm thinking of like regulating their emotions, regulating their behavior, understanding why they might have done something, and then explaining to them, okay, I understand that you might have thought this was okay, but this is the reason why this is not. And so being in the moment and understanding like what the child may have been thinking or feeling during that time to make them to do the things that they did. And I try to incorporate that a lot in like, as a teacher too, like I'm a special education teacher. So like right now I have at least 3 or 4 kids that are autistic in my class. And you have to go about how you teach them in a different way. And like having, and not in a way like you're trying to force them to be in a neurotypical environment in a way that neurotypical people want you to do, but in a way for them to understand that it's okay to feel their emotions, but we need to be able to express those emotions or act upon those emotions in a way that is not harmful to themselves and others. So those are my thoughts.
I love that. Sam?
You're muted, boo.
No.
So, I mean, I know I haven't said a lot, but to talk about a couple things, I will admit I have not looked up conscious parenting specifically, but what I do believe about parenting is it's not necessarily the consequence, but how it's enforced. So, I mean, I do think, especially when people are younger and they don't understand language, you definitely need to be popped. Like, I think more in those early situations, like, hey, a quick pop, you don't know what's going on, no, whatever. But I do think what I realized is, because I was a teacher, it's not necessarily the consequence. You ain't got to beat someone down. It's how it's administered. So if something happens and you say, hey, I need you to do this, and they still don't do that, you can say, hey, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And the next time they do it, you can miss the consequence. Someone said something like, oh, you ignored the warning 16 times and then you got a pop. Like, why 16 times? That's way too much. Like, you have your warning, or you have the initial, hey, this is what I need you to do. Then you have the warning. Then if you don't comply, you have a consequence. And I think a lot of some of what people are saying is parenting is not about controlling your child. But I think so much of what we've been taught is about, control your child. It's about teaching your child, hey, you have options, you have choices. And if you go this way, this is your consequence, and if you go this way, this is your consequence. And whichever way you go, you will have a consequence, whether it's good or bad. Consequence does not have to be bad; it can still be good. But whichever way you go, whatever choice you make, you will have a subsequent reaction from that. And if we as parents can start to teach our kids, hey, these are your options. These are the subsequent consequences of that. So, start to make your decision from there. Then there is some sort of kind of natural discipline about that in some sort of way.
Okay, so that in
But
case,
also,
sorry, Sam. I just but like also like keep in mind like what are natural consequences. So like what are some of the natural consequences that could happen for your child? Like because when they're older, they're adults. Like a beating is not necessarily a natural consequence for the actions, or a spanking. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, if you touch fire, you're gonna get burned. Like that's a natural consequence, right? Like, so I'm not
Yeah, but
saying
that's
it
not
all
something
has
that
to
would
be left to
require.
that.
That's not something that would require
I'm
like
not
any
saying
sort of
it's
like
all left to
tutorial.
that. I'm just saying that. Right. I'm just saying that. As parents, it's not our place to control kids. And I don't know if this is conscious parenting or not. It's not our place to control them. It's our place to let them know, here are your options. When you choose this option, this is what's going to happen. When you choose this option, this is what's going to happen. What do you want to do?
I both agree and disagree with
And
that.
part of
It
that
depends on
is
it depends on
following
the
up
ages.
with, what happens after that as parents.
I do
But
think.
stop.
Sorry.
So we have.
The weird thing is that we don't have
my
a way to
daughter,
like your turn and your turn.
Oh, hey. Go ahead, Ruth. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. I was just saying that I think that parents do have a responsibility to provide a structure for their children to grow in. I'm not saying I mean, because my parents were, especially my mom was very controlling, so I know the side of like too controlling parenting when you're 20 years old and you still have to like there's limits to controlling parenting.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say one more thing, but I was waiting because I thought Ruth was gonna go.
That was Ruth.
I
but
think
go ahead.
also it's about boundaries. So like, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Boundaries.
Hello.
Yeah,
Sam,
we can hear you. Oh, she might be frozen.
Sam, you might be lagging a bit.
Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was saying what I had read on conscious parenting. I'd only read like one or two articles on it, and some of the stuff seemed good and good. It was like parenting. Parenting is not just about making a child happy. Children can grow and develop through struggles, and so I think that kind of ties into. I do think parents, while they shouldn't control every aspect of their children, especially as their children get older, especially once they're, adult children, but I do think that they have a responsibility to create some kind of structure. And where I was going with that was, I know growing up, because I was homeschooled growing up, so it was sort of a weirdly structured and simultaneously non-structured environment, and which had its benefits and drawbacks. But one of the things I found is that when I was doing outside organizations, I really craved structure because I really didn't have that much structure at home. And so when I found when I went to organizations, I loved organizations that had like clear, consistent structure. And so I do think it's important for kids to have structure, even if that's not like controlling their every move and not letting them make any decision because, they might fail. So I do think they need room to struggle and grow. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a balance,
And there's definitely ways to work around it, especially with like giving children choices. You can give them choices. It can be the choices that you want. the choice that you're okay with,
right.
But they're still getting a choice, and then they'll feel some type of ownership, and like they feel like they're responsible for what they're doing, but it's still basically what you want.
So
absolutely.
I think that like when we talk about control, it's important to kind of really sort of define that. And I don't know if I'm going to do a good job here of doing that, but I think it's like for me, the point of parenting is not control, but that doesn't mean that you don't use control in your parenting, right? So sometimes you have to, and that's part of, with discipline, making sure that structure is there. You're going to be somewhat controlling, but you have to just remember that that's not the point of parenting. The point of parenting is to, bring someone up and have them fit into the society, while also being aware of, the nuances and context of that society, right? So, but that's yeah.
Also, I want to address something
agree
like.
and disagree.
Go ahead, T. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Ricky. I agree and disagree only with the bringing them up with. How did you say it with society?
To be able to operate in the society while also understanding the nuances and context of that, right? So that's the part where, like, for me, an example would be this: bad words. What's a bad word, right? So when I was raising my son, I told him that there's no bad words. Words are words. If you say shit or shoot, but you mean the same thing, then there is literally no difference. However, society has a view on this word. So if you're at school and you say it, there will be consequences because your teacher will say that's a bad word. So so that's what I mean. So you bring them up and you say, hey, this is what society has expectations of. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means that's what society is. And then you, as a intelligent person, have to make your own decisions about how you're going to operate within that. But I need you to know what is going on, and also give you the tools so that you can then do that
And advocate for yourself. And I want to just something like Mr. Big Papa Fascist. I am well aware of how children behave. I have children of my own, and I teach children with the least amount of filter ever. I teach pre-K children that do not have filter, and
they say whatever.
They say whatever, and you're still trying.
If they have autism, they don't always realize the meanings of the things that they're saying to other people.
Right. And so we are always talking about, social skills and social learning and social emotional behavior. And I'm trying to teach these children to not only learn their ABCs and their numbers, but also how to interact with their peers and how to interact with adults. And some of the ways that we have learned throughout the years have been brought up are not always the right ways. And that's what it is. So we have to make sure that we research and have evidence-based practice, which is a big thing in education, some evidence-based practice to really figure out how we should navigate nurturing children in this world. But that it's not some like woke parenting. It's just, we're learning more. We're finding out more things. There's more research on this. We can't just go by what we've learned in the past. Well, my parents brought me up this way, and I don't know. Okay, are you sure? Because some of us still need therapy. Some of us are. I mean, thank you. Some of us are traumatized, and whether or not it was intentional from our parents, there's still things that we have to work through. I'm just saying. I mean, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But go ahead,
Ricky.
And it's one of those things like, oh, I'm sorry, Tanya.
No. Go ahead, T.
It's one of those things where like parenting is not one size fits all, and it doesn't matter how many children that you have, whether it be you have a child from a previous marriage and then you have another child, or if you all have children that both have the same parents the entire time. Each child is different, and the way you parent them is not the same. Like, you might be their parent, but I can't parent my son the same way I parent my daughter.
That's
because
very
of
true.
The personality differences already at 1 and 10. The same way I can't parent my bonus babies separately and together the way I would parent my son. And that's not to say that I am harder on one or softer on the other, but their personalities are different. The way they receive information and take that in is different. And so I have to parent them based on those things. And if that is considered conscious, then absolutely sure. But I also try to parent my children as close to the Word of God as possible. So there are certain things that I instill in my kids, like we do these things because it honors God, right? So when you're not nice to somebody, that does not honor God, right? When we behave in a certain way, even when I discipline my kids, I really have to take into consideration, like, if God dealt with me as harshly as I deal or could deal with my children, how would I respond to God? And so then those are things that I take into consideration, and I try my darndest not to discipline my children when I'm upset, because then I'm not disciplining you for what you did. I'm disciplining you because I'm mad. And that makes a difference.
And that's how they receive it too.
If you're disciplining your child as a correction, then that's fine. They will understand that it is a correction. But if you're disciplining them out of anger, that's what creates those little ticks and like, oh, whenever you see a kid that kind of like flinches from their parent, that's not because they're getting corrected. That's because they've taken that as like, no, this is not a correction. This is like, she was mad at me. And so if she gets mad at me again, this is what is going to happen. And so, I mean, parenting is, and on top of that, if you are a person who has a child with any sort of disability, whether it be intellectual, physical, social, whatever, then that brings in a whole different factor, right? Because one of my sons, he doesn't emotionally understand things in the way that the other two do. And so I can't, like, spanking him, he doesn't understand that. He's like, oh.
And there are plenty of kids that are like that.
You know, it doesn't matter to him. So then I have to find ways to not make him fearful, but to also teach him, like, hey, what you're doing is not acceptable in this house. And that behavior is not okay. But you have to do that in ways that they understand. And so parenting is it's so broad. Like, there's a wrong way to do it, but there are many different ways that may be right. Oh yeah, and I hate the term stepkids. Like, just because I didn't give birth to them doesn't make them any less. Miss Tanya used it. That just is her term to use it.
He doesn't want me calling him his mom, so we have an understanding.
Yeah. Some people like have
and
that,
that's
like,
communication.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. So just for me, I have to love my bonus babies in the way they need to be loved. One of them's really touchy-feely. I'm not. But if that's how he receives love, I have to get over myself and give him that, so that he's like, okay.
So can I ask a question? Is anybody opposed to conscious parenting in some way? Because I've sort of just heard everyone's just kind of agreeing with some aspect or another.
I mean, agree with different aspects, but not completely.
What would be things that you disagree with? I'm just curious. So, just
I think a problem with this conscious parenting thing as a something that we present to people is what is it supposed to look like on the back end, right? Or on the front end, rather. So the idea, conscious parenting, the idea that I should be mindful about what it is exactly I'm doing and why to my children in pursuit of proper parenting, I don't think anyone can argue that there's something wrong with that or that that's not correct or what have you, right?
No, you shouldn't think about it. Never. No.
But yeah, if you, in the meantime, if what that means is like you have decided that for you cannot separate your personal frustration and anger with spanking, then for you, maybe you shouldn't spank, but then you can't necessarily project that onto someone else. And I think that's where the problem comes in, is you have people who something works for them, and then they presume that must be how it works for everyone. And they sort of kind of make this declaration that no one should ever spank anyone. And I think that's where we start getting into some issues. So
yeah, it's the judgment, I think, that gets really kind of tricky, because I mean, conscious parenting is great, and learning from your kids and letting your kids kind of like, guide their own journey, whatever. I mean, with you setting up, boundaries and guidelines and rules and whatever. Yes, kids love structure, and all that's great. But learning from them, all that stuff. But then when you try to like look at someone else, or have a situation where you're, possibly casting judgment on someone else's parenting style or parenting preferences, I think that's where it can get tricky, because everyone's conscious parenting is different. Like, your interpretation of how everything's going, and your environment, and these set of choices and rules and things that have been set down, it's all different. So you can't just like go in and say like, oh, if you spank your child and they're 4 years old, like, and you spanked him like once or whatever, you're abusing them. Like, I don't think that you can do that. Like, and that's where it gets muddy for me. Like, I agree with conscious parenting, but I don't agree with enforcing your opinion of conscious parenting on someone else's child, or someone else's experience.
Yeah, I would
What I
agree.
disagree with, I'm sorry, Ruth.
Oh no, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
What I disagree with is I'm looking at the definition of it, and it's letting go of the parents' egos, desires, and attachments. But my desires are for my children to succeed. And the focusing on my language and letting go and letting my kids do what they desire. Yeah, they don't know what they desire because they're kids.
Don't they though?
I interpret that a different way.
Yeah.
Like, there are some things that my son there are parameters around that, right? Like, what you desire at 10 is not going to be the same thing you desire at 18, which was not the same thing you wanted when you were 4. When you were 4, my son was like, yay, I want to be a robot. And I was like,
Whoa.
You be a robot.
I want to be a robot.
Right, but our children
Obviously,
don't know what
you
is
weren't consciously
best for
parented,
them.
Danny. Or you
Right.
weren't.
but he decided, but it doesn't necessarily say like, it doesn't mean like given to all your child's wants. So, because what I'm thinking is like, yes, he might desire something different at 10 than he does at 18. He still desires the same, and you can acknowledge that. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to give into it.
Right. I'm here for the acknowledgement, but I don't know. I feel like maybe the way it is wording is saying that I should just follow my child. And
I get that
go
vibe too.
I
what my
interpret it.
child wants.
I interpret it a little bit different. So when we take away our own ego, what we're doing is not objectifying our children. We're not treating them like objects and pulling them around from here to there and not giving them choice. So if we let go of our own ego, and this is just the way I interpreted what you said, we are acknowledging that our children are small people and that they have thoughts and feelings of their own, and maybe we ask them why they feel that way, and we let go of our own ego and we focus on them.
What parent doesn't ask that? What good parent doesn't ask that? Because obviously there are parents that
But sometimes we forget to do that, and we get in the moment of what we got to do now and get it done quick. But if we take a time, and what I love about what Rakia said is she's talking about her being a teacher for special needs or other children. Both are equally important. You're not treating them as objects and remembering that they are just small people that are developing their thoughts and feelings, and focusing on them for a minute. That, not just a minute, but always, just as a regular basis. I'm sorry, are you not hearing me?
I can hear you.
No, okay. Focusing, letting them recognize that they have choices. I think that's incredibly important to their development too, and helping them feel heard.
And
even if they disagree, or even if you disagree.
Right.
And a really quick point to what you said, T, is like I would never, from my interactions with you here, I talk it out, I would never in a million years think to myself that T is probably not a good parent. I would probably say, I would say, knowing who you are here and feeling like that's probably who you are everywhere, I would say you're probably a pretty good parent. But there are people who think they're good parents and are not. So that's kind of just something to raise, is to remember that sometimes this isn't necessarily getting past the people who just are judgy and just, but sometimes when people talk about this, it's not necessarily directed at you if you are a good parent. It's like the not all men comment, like well, if it ain't you, it's not you. So don't worry about it. We're trying to fix like these dudes over here. Yeah, that was just a point.
But I also think like going back to the whole like keeping in mind that like your children are not just solely just a reflection of you. So when you're taking your ego out of the picture, it's not just about what you want as a parent, as someone who's an adult, as someone who feel that they have complete and utter authority and therefore their feelings do not matter or should not be taken into consideration. I think that's what that means. I feel like one thing that I've learned from conscious parenting, and there's someone that I follow on Twitter. Her name is Tasha. She lives in Atlanta and she's great. She has she's neurodivergent. She just recently found out she is on the autism spectrum, and her two daughters, who are very young, are also on the spectrum as well. And one of the things she talks about is why are your feelings and your reactions to your child's behavior affect you in a certain way? What is it about the children's behavior are triggering you? And how is that affecting the way you respond to them as someone who is an adult and who essentially does have power over them, and how did that affect them later in life? So understanding that, like, yes, my children, my two kids, 3 years apart, boy and a girl, they argue all the time, cats and dogs. And it is, for me, it is triggering so much, especially if I'm like driving a car. My anxiety goes to the roof because I'm trying to stop this argument in the back of the car while also trying to concentrate in driving, and understanding like that right there is impacting me, but also my children are having an issue and I have to find a way for them to be able to resolve that without being like trying to throw the hammer down on them, like, and it not being an actual resolution, because throwing the hammer down on them doesn't necessarily resolve anything. They're still going to argue about the same thing later. So just thinking about a way, like, how does your reaction affect your children, and taking taking how your feelings about it out of the picture and focusing on how your child is dealing and why they're feeling the way that they feel.
I think for me, the biggest issue, though, is the things that trigger me are the things that are me in him. Mm-hmm. Like, I tell people all the time, especially those that don't have kids, the hardest part about parenting is disciplining the you out of your child.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's the best way I can sum up parenting. Like, the things in my son that bother me the most that I have to attack and correct are the things that were or are traits of myself that I'm still fixing in me. But if I can attack it in him now, he won't be 30-something trying to fix that issue, whether it be fixing it as to how to make it work for his benefit or having to repair damages that he has created in his own life. And I feel somewhat the same way about my daughter. Like, the things that are not my behaviors, then I have my husband correct those issues, because then there are some things that needs a man's hand in correcting, and then there are some things that if you're the parent that has that same trait, then you have to attack it, because especially if you know that it is in you, you can attack it in a way where your attack is not coming as to berate, belittle, and beat your child. You're addressing a firm thing that you yourself deal with. And so when I have those moments with my son where I get angry, because I do get angry.
Mm-hmm. That's a valid feeling.
It's because I'm mad because that's a thing in me I can't fix. So then I have to tag my husband in and be like, hey, I have this same trait and I haven't been able to fix it in me yet. And it frustrates me that I see it in him, because that means I gave it to him. And so...
Well, not necessarily.
Now I need you to come.
I mean...
You picked it up from somewhere. You pick it up from somewhere. And
it might be a learned behavior, but
yes and no. It's a good mixture.
Yeah, and so then I have to be like, okay, I need to tag you in because you will be objective to issue. Like you won't look at it like it's me. And if that's what it means to take my ego out, then sure. But I'm not trying to hurt my child and disciplining him. I am trying to instill values and morals that I believe will help him grow as a person.
So my question for you, T, is then when you are responding to the behaviors that remind you of the traits that you have either have like dealt with or grown from, are you thinking about how your parents responded to those same traits? Are you thinking about things that you have done differently, you could do differently to get a better outcome for those traits?
Yeah, no. So it's no secret that I've gone to therapy based on my parenting.
Yeah.
And because I openly discuss it, and I openly discuss it with strangers, or I openly discuss it with somebody that I have an intimate type relationship with in friendships, because that healing was important.
Yes.
And that healing helps me to be a better parent every day. It helps how I react to things. And again, from going to therapy and having counseling with my pastor, the reason I can identify those things is because of that, and say, I'm upset because that's something that's in me. And so, yeah, I'm not upset with it. And I'm not responding to him. Again, when I am upset, I choose not to discipline at those times. I walk away.
Yeah.
Because that's not beneficial to my children.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be because I'm mad, not because I need you to learn or get something from what I'm saying. And so I try my best not to discipline my children and talk to my children the same way my parents disciplined me. And yeah, mothers do definitely discipline differently than fathers. And I am not the giving parent. Me personally, I'm not the lovey-dovey one. My husband is the one that is like, oh my gosh, let me hug you and kiss you. I'm not. I am more stern, rigid, but I also allow more freedom than he would. So I would hope how those things balance.
I would hope that gender roles at this point would be like just a little bit, I mean, like, I know the father's supposed to be the disciplinarian and the mother's supposed to be the one that like coddles the child, but like I would hope at this point that, it's not so black and white, it's not so cut and dry.
Yes, right. And it shouldn't be, because I mean, women, yes, naturally we may be more nurturing, but nature also can play a big part in that, in how you were raised. My mom's not a cuddler. My mom's not a hugger. She told me she was proud of me for the first time when I was like 18. And I was a pretty decent kid. I was a pretty good kid. I never really got into trouble, never been suspended from school, never got kicked out. None of that stuff ever happened. I got in trouble for talking a lot and getting smart with people. But, other than that, regular type kid here. And so those things are important. But for me, it makes me aware that I know how those things affected me. And I told my husband when we first started dating, because we both have children from previous marriages, and we got together, and I was children that don't have to recover from their childhood. Like, I don't know what that looked like, but that's my goal, that they don't have to be like, you know what, my mama or my stepmama, I wanted to punch her in the face, or I don't want my kids to ever.
That sounds pretty close to. That sounds as close as conscious parenting as some of us can get right now. To be honest with you, like, let's be real though, because that involves a lot of like self-reflection and understanding of your own self and why you feel the way that you feel, and understanding the way your childhood dictates the way that you are now, or influences the way you are now. Like that's pretty close to it. I feel like
I just don't want running rampant.
I do like what T said about how you can have a partner or spouse that kind of complements your way of thinking, whether you're more nurturing or more of a disciplinarian. I think you need both. It'd be rough on a kid that was just raised by two disciplinarians and just there was of course there's extremes.
Yeah.
And if you had two nurturers, they'd be like, we can't ever make a decision, you just do what you
You
want.
can tell those kids now as adults.
Yeah.
You can look at
Yeah.
adults and be like, your parents
Oh,
didn't stop you.
your
enough to tell
parents
you
never
no.
spanked you, did they? Not a
They
once.
never said
Not a
no.
once.
Goodness.
Nope, they did
Yeah,
not.
and
They
I
just let you do and say whatever you wanted to do. And now look
I
at you
do
as an
think
adult.
I definitely think kids need to hear both no and yes. So depending on the situation, I don't think you can just give kids whatever they want, because they won't learn any boundaries, and that won't make them into that won't make them into functioning adults.
No. The goal is to get them to adulthood. If you give them no boundaries, they may not make it that far.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just need to get them to adulthood. And speaking from a perspective of I don't have children of my own. I would love to one day hopefully have a child of my own, but I have the unique perspective of living in a house with a developing child. I live with my sister and her brother, and my brother-in-law, her husband, and they have a son. And I also live with my fiance. We all live in the house together, so it's like a big happy family. But like, I have this like awesome opportunity to like grow up with this child he just turned 3, and he's growing up every day with like, a gay couple that he gets to interact with every day and see like interacting with each other on a normal basis, a straight couple, which are his parents, that are interacting on a normal basis. And I mean, I literally can't wait for this child's like development. Like it's so unique and special to me to like be in this environment. And while I'm not a parent, like I do have the not obligation, but like I have, sometimes the responsibility of being, the one that's watching over him, or making sure that he doesn't die in that moment, And so, I watch what my sister does. I watch what, my brother-in-law does, as far as parenting and try to learn from them, and like, how to best, like cater it to that situation. I love watching my nephew. He's my favorite little person. And while I'm not his parent, I'm so excited to grow up in this, like, or for him to grow up in this environment and to kind of grow in that. One day I hope to be a parent, and I hope that will be a great one, just from like learning what I've seen from my sister and my brother-in-law and my mother and all of those people. But I think we're doing a good job. He's so sweet. He's like the sweetest little boy you've ever known. He's so
I just
sweet.
wanted to address this comment about can anybody explain why single motherhood outcomes are almost always worse than those in a nuclear family? It seems to work with mommy as a nurturer and daddy as a disciplinarian. So I have had the unique experience of having been a single parent and also having been married. I was a single parent for 2 years before I got remarried. And I don't necessarily think that the outcomes are worse. A mother can't be both a mother and a father. But there are so many other things that come along with that, right? Depending on the amount of children a person has, the type of job somebody works, like there are so many things. But that's why the saying, it takes a village to raise children, is really important, right? Because even as a single parent, one of my church members, a lovely couple, like different couples actually, would keep my son because I would have to work Saturdays. One couple, the husband taught my son how to pee standing up. Like I can't teach him that. You know what I mean? Another guy from my church taught my son how to tie his shoe. So while yes, I was a single parent, like even my husband and I were friends before we ever dated. And he's friends with, of course, my son's godparents. We all go to the same church. And so he would hang out with my son, like with my son's godfather, and they would just do things. Because I was a single mom, they took in that role like, oh no, hey, this is my uncle so-and-so. This is Mr. Cam from church. Like he hangs out with me sometimes. Like it's the environment that you're in, because even though I was a single parent in as far as responsibility wise, My son did not lack anything. He did not miss anything because there were men in his life, and he had examples of men who were married, who are married, and single men who nurtured him and took care of him in that way. But also, I gave them permission to issue discipline within certain parameters. Like, of course, you're not gonna like spank him just willy nilly. But if he is at your house and he does something against your rules, let me know. But you may discipline him as you see fit because I trust you with my child. I know you're not going to harm them. So in most instances, while I'm sorry, Ruth, I give you.
No, you're good. I keep going.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in after you.
In most instances, single parents have a village, right? Even if it's other single parents. It's just that when we look at the news, or if we start looking up all of these things, it starts telling us that single parent moms, their kids they don't do well. They come out emotionally, blah, 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 blah. Those things may be true, but that's not on the mother. And I am a firm believer that a mother can't be a mother and a father. You can only be a mother. That's it.
And I love that story because you really address like the heart of that issue because I kind of have the same feeling that women and men, although I think that they're equal, I do think there tend to be differences, not that they don't overlap in a lot of areas, so not getting into that. But I was just going to say that I agree that a mother and a father or somebody that fills those roles should definitely be part of a child raising. But like you did, I love how your story went, that when you didn't have that, you like went out of your way to like find a community to get him to have those influences. And so I think that's probably a really, really important for a lot of people. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. So.
And to that point, like I think that in a lot of cultures, like the whole idea of a nuclear family where it's just the parents and the kids is not necessarily a common thing. It's really more of a recent phenomenon. Whereas
an American thing.
I think there was always a mother and father, but you also just had a lot of extended family, aunts,
right, and
cousins that's
what
helped out.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking like the village. Like, yes, you had the mother and the father and the kids, but you also had the village. A lot of cultures where you still have the grandparents that are still close by and the cousins and aunts and uncles. It wasn't just It was a complement to the nuclear family. It wasn't a supplement. I didn't say it the right way. It wasn't a replacement for the nuclear family. It was like in addition to the nuclear family. There was often like the village and the community, which I think is absolutely great. I do think it's important I do think a nuclear family is important, but obviously life isn't fair and doesn't always work out for everybody, and that's just how life is,
Here's a really shitty argument that I'm going to make because it's just one of those like kind of things. It's called a nuclear family. There's a reason it's called a nuclear family, because a nuclear family did not develop until nuclear times.
Nuclear war, yeah.
Right. So the idea of what a nuclear family is, when we say nuclear family, and this is just about getting like, the words and language right, I guess.
Back to the 50s.
Is that it's mom, dad, a couple of kids, moved out in their own house that they own, and it's part of the American dream. Now that's not to say, it's not true that nuclear families are named because of the nuclear point of time. Yeah, okay. So my point is that this idea of that definition of the nuclear family, I'm not saying that we didn't have moms and dads and kids and da 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 da. What I am saying is that previous to that period of time, there were all kinds of other things going on in families, right? And like you had children that were working in the coal mines. That's not the nuclear family dynamic. It just isn't, okay? When you had, in a lot of cultures, you had places where kids might have just died a lot. You have a lot of kids because a lot of them die, and so there is this, the way the nuclear family set up in the 50s, that came out of the 50s, is set up is not the same as how families work. Now that doesn't mean, I'm just pointing this out as a thing for nuclear families. That doesn't mean that these families didn't have a mom and a dad and that dynamic wasn't important and yada yada yada. Because I definitely agree that 100% it is not And I would think that anyone who does disagree with this is not being honest, or they're being very biased in their views, that a mom and a dad, or at least a two-parent family, is better than a not two-parent family. I don't know who disagrees with that. So got me. It started in 1924, not maybe the 50s. So my bad. My point being that in the 1800s and the 1700s and the 1600s and the 1500s, a lot of time. I mean, because there's a lot more time before 1924
I'm pretty sure,
than
but
after 1924.
I'm pretty sure marriage culture and laws were pretty strict back.
Oh,
Back
yeah,
into
yeah.
that
I'm not
time.
saying any of that.
I mean, I don't even think you
saying-
could get divorced in England without like an act of
Right,
parliament until
right.
like
And I'm just
the
saying that
1900s.
I'm just saying that, like, the idea, the concept of the nuclear family being mom, dad, two kids, and a dog.
2.5
in Western culture, for sure.
And moved out of your family and maybe even to a whole other state and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That is recent. So
that is very 50.
Nuclear bombs. They destroyed Hiroshima
Right.
and started the
And
nuclear
if
family.
you're disagreeing with me, you either don't understand exactly what the point I'm trying to make, or you have your own agenda.
I mean, what I'll say is, like, the whole nuclear family concept, though, it's so westernized world, because everywhere else, other than the small little itty bitty space of the United States, everywhere else, their families still live with them.
Yeah, is my Korean culture an outlier?
Extendedly.
Like, is that an outlier? My Korean grandmother, my Korean grandfather, aunts, uncles, cousins, big place. Is that an outlier? Or like, is the nuclear family part of
I'm not sure why
Korean
these ideas
culture in
are
the
brought
past?
up in. I don't understand why these ideas are brought up in opposition. Why is it that it seems like you're saying that it's like people are like, well, the nuclear family isn't really necessary because of community and everything else, but it's like that just means there's more people staying in the life. I don't think if you have a tight knit community, I don't think it's likely for one person just walk off and leave as easy as it is in today's culture.
I think that
but maybe I had a misunderstanding.
I think there's a push for this idea of the two parent, and yes, we want both parents there. But this idea of like this certain idea of a family.
And I definitely don't identify with the nuclear family. I have a gay lover, and I want a kid. Like, I want a child of my own. Like, so I mean, like that. I don't identify with the nuclear family at all.
So like, there's this particular idea of what a family is supposed to look like, and it doesn't necessarily include actual like community or
does it still have a mother and father in the home?
Okay, so if that's what you're defining nuclear family is,
I mean,
a
nuclear family, but like a regular family, no.
Okay,
It can be contained inside a larger family. I don't know that's
if that's where you're going, then that's what you're going. That's what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that. My point, though, is that the technicality of the language, so we're getting into pedantry here a little bit, is that a nuclear family is in opposition to a single parent family or an extended family. We are talking about different things, right? So if we are talking about a extended family, then we're saying extended family. If we are specifically saying nuclear family this, nuclear family that, we are saying it in opposition to those things. If we further clarify and say, well, actually, I mean like the nuclear family within the extended or whatever, then hey, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah,
so, and that's all I'm talking about.
I suppose. I think we can all agree that just having a single person on their own, no community, no nothing, raising the kid is just, it's hard. So
yeah, at the end of the day, having more people to assist positively in raising a child is always going to be better. I don't know who disagrees with that. And you might be able to make an argument. I'm not saying, with respect to homosexual and LGBTQ, you might be able to make an argument that it's better for a child to have a mom and a dad, maybe. But that doesn't mean that having two fathers or two mothers or whatever is going to have a bad outcome. I've already seen, and maybe they're outliers, that's a happy word today.
That's a hot word
Maybe
today.
the word of the
they're
day
outliers,
today.
but I
Word
know
of
a
the
lot
day.
of people that were raised by gay parents that are just fine, and some of them are more conservative than me. Some of them are more liberal than me. They're fine. I know way more people that turned out okay than didn't.
I just
So
couldn't
what I'm
imagine
gonna
a
do
child growing
now
up
is
in a household of love with two same sex parents that and like that really cared for them and did all that they could for them that would turn out badly. So like that's just my opinion, but
I mean, and again, things that we could talk about forever for another hour and a half is breaking down the structure of the family and what families look like now versus what they looked like 100 years ago versus what they look like in Eastern culture or other cultures that are not the United States. And sometimes our views are so limited because we're in the US and sometimes if you're not like a first generation kind of kid or a first generation person, then you're pretty far removed from think how traditionally your family would have done things. And so, I mean, I think this is a great place to go ahead and start our final thoughts because the conversation parenting is so multifaceted and it does take a village to parent correctly. However, parenting is mostly the parent themselves are responsible. The village is just a supplement and a additional help to what the parent should already be doing. So we have one more commercial break before we go to our final thoughts, and we're gonna head into that now.
We are here today on site at one of our projects. I'm a developer and entrepreneur in real estate. And what excites me most is seeing the properties come from the ground up. You know, in development, you have to grade the ground first, you have to pour the footers, and make sure that you're building on the solid foundation. That is very important because you want to make sure that your structure can be supported by the foundation that you're laying. That's the same thing that happens in life. You want to make sure that you're starting with a solid foundation in education. That's why we host our educational services, to make sure that you are going in the right direction to learn, to build, and so that you can grow too your real estate portfolio. All of these things and more, we provide resources at itsjessicamyers.com.
Like, bruh, what's his name? The Weeknd got a Kids' Choice Award for that song "I Can't Feel My Face When I'm With You," which is about cocaine. It's about cocaine.
Yeah.
So when you really think, like, we know why people are what.
Didn't they make a Kids Bop version of that song?
They made a Kids Bop version of what?
There's a Kids Bop version of everything. Of the most
wings and pizza.
Mm-hmm. Yes, bitch.
Wings what?
Wings and pizza. Get a bucket full of ranch for some wings and pizza. Yep.
No, wings and pizza.
I can't. This is fucking crazy.
Okay, I'm about to get out. I'm leaving.
I'm telling you, like,
here.
Just like I said, I'm going to go.
Child, before we go into these final thoughts, you got to be kidding me. They got a wings and pizza.
Wings and pizza.
Yes, so
that's not conscious parenting right there. That's not it.
I got my feelings on Kids Bop. I had my feelings on Kids Bop, but that was a clip from our sister podcast, Geeking Out, right there, which airs every other Monday. It's too much.
Jesus is coming soon, God. Child. Wings and pizza. Get a bucket and some ranch.
That's too much.
So,
I can't.
We are going to start with Miss Ruth for our final thoughts.
Okay. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the discussion. Let's see. I as far as conscious parenting goes, I think it's mostly a good idea because it talks about being in touch with the parents' emotions and making sure you don't act uncontrollably. I do think that it doesn't quite focus enough on there being structure for the child, but I also haven't read that much into it, so I do think structure is a very important part of parenting. And as far as the single parent discussion, I think we kind of got into the weeds a bit there, but I would just like to say that I don't know a lot
No.
Come back.
Oh
Come
no.
back.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, good.
Okay.
You're
Okay, I
there.
was just
Okay.
all right. So I was saying in Eastern cultures, I don't know a whole lot about them, but I do know that in China and Japan they have very low divorce rates compared to the U.S. So I don't think that necessarily having all the extended family, which is great, necessarily is in opposition to having a strong nuclear family as the core of that. Um, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you are very welcome. Next, we're gonna go to Chris, who is responsible for his nephew, even though he's not a parent. It's still parenting.
I'm not.
Just in a different way.
I'm not. I'm not always responsible, but yeah. No. I final thoughts would like to say that I think conscious parenting is a great concept as far as learning from your children as much as they're learning from you, and taking that, giving children structure, I think is always going to be a good thing. And whether that is in a single parent household, a gay parent household, a nuclear family household, I don't think that really matters as long as a child is getting love and structure and development skills. I think that's where that's where the real key is. So I feel like conscious parenting is a good thing as long as you take it as just a guide stone. Like it's something to kind of model your life after, but you don't have to you don't have to you don't have to change everything about yourself. It's just a guidepost, basically. What I'm saying.
You can find Chris on IG at Chris of Steel. I would like to take this opportunity right now to give final thoughts or receive final thoughts from our trolls. Oh, wait, they're not on the show. Rakia! Final thoughts!
So since you decided to be slightly petty, I'm going to be slightly petty as well, Miss T. If you don't see Duryea on the show, 99.99% sure that he is not actually here. And considering that he's not here, he's not the one controlling the backstage. More than likely, that is me. Just fair warning. Just a heads up. Just saying. But anyways, back to the final thoughts. So my final thoughts are there is so much to get into with conscious parenting. And I think it's about more than just kind of doing what you thought worked back when you were a child, because we don't necessarily know for sure if they really did work, because we have all our own things to really work through. I think the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from learning about conscious parenting on my own and following different groups and following different people that practice it and teach it is understanding that your children are people. They are people. They are humans with feelings and ideas. And even though they are young, they may not necessarily know how to tell you in your regular words. They're trying to communicate something with you. So being cognizant of the fact that they are trying to communicate something that they might need from you, and not just completely disregarding that. So just keeping that in mind. And I think, if anything, bottom line, parents, we're all trying to do the best we can with what we have, with what we know. Some of us will take the time to get better and learn, and some of us don't, and we'll reap the consequences or the benefits of that later on in life. So those are my final thoughts.
Word. And you can find Miss Rakia, aka Ricky Z, on IG at Ricky_Z and Twitter at _RickyZ. Danny, my man, I just want to say that I have been really focused on this person in the background here with the afro and the drum the whole entire time. I wish I could get close up on it just to see how cool that is. Mr. Cottlesworth Twitter handle. Final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are gonna actually they're connected, but I'm gonna talk about something else. So when we talk about conscious this, woke that, and everything, and we could see a lot of pushback from certain groups and areas, And I think a lot of that problem happens to come from not necessarily the ideas of wokeness or the ideas of progress, but what a friend of mine, who's one of the wokest people I know and advocates for all things woke, uh, said to me one day, and the term is woke scold. Okay. And the way he said it, it was so derisive. He was so, or they were so angry about, um, about woke scolds. And what that term is is that it's somebody who, whoa, okay. A woke scold is somebody who looks at people who are not doing the things that they think are woke and attack them for it, right? Go after them. It's the people who say, like if you use the word retarded, right? I think that's not the best word to use. There's a reason for that, all that kind of thing. So I don't use it. And if someone else uses it, I will say to them, "Hey, have you considered this, this, and this?" But I don't attack them for it. I don't jump down their throat. But there are people who do that as if you should already know, and that you're a horrible person because you don't know, or you're continuing to do the thing, and that causes feelings. It just does. So that's where all of these things, like when we talk about what is conscious parenting and we say what the definition kind of is, we're all like, yeah, that makes sense. When we talk about like, is it better to treat people with kindness? Everyone's like, yes, that makes sense. But what happens is when people say something or do something that isn't in the zeitgeist or the progress or whatever, there are people who, and a lot of times it's people who it's not even their business, right? It's like when the white person just jumps on somebody because they said something that might offend some black people, right? And they're just like, oh my God, you, and it's like, calm down. You're in a position where you can actually talk about this without putting your feelings in it because you're not like the one who's being oppressed or whatever. So in any case,
I don't think you actually heard what you said.
I don't know. I don't know the race card.
so.
Apparently, I just played the race card.
And also, Ashley, he knows how to find himself, to make himself a panelist. He knows Duryea, and so if he wants to, he can actually talk to Duryea.
Yeah. I
He
just
should. He should.
I mean, if
And,
that's
you
me
know.
playing the race card, whoo, I don't know. But all right. So in any case, my point though is that then you're not the one, which is totally opposite of playing the race card. So I question your ability to understand context and nuance. But hey, yeah. The point being is that I think is where a lot of the pushback is. And so when we get into a lot of this kind of a lot of these kind of discussions, I think that's a lot of times where we're talking from and where we're arguing from, right? We're talking from that space. We're talking from this feeling that I'm being attacked because I am not using the woke terminology that you are. And I think that's a big problem. And even though it's not necessarily about conscious parenting itself, to me, the reason conscious parenting is something to even have a discussion like this about is because of woke scold. It's because of the people who, in their eagerness to be woke and present as woke, they try to push that on other people in a way that's very aggressive and not helpful. So, so that's kind of my final thought here today.
Cool. Well, before I give my final thoughts, I would like to say, if you want to be a panelist, please email the admin at wonellymedia.com. Because I feel all conversation, whether it be opposing or like-minded views, is welcome, just as long as we find respectful ways to do it, right? Like, I don't care that Big Papa Fascist is going in the comments. I'm not rattled by it because some people are just trolls, right? Like, and that's okay. It brings more viewers when you do that. So I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't agree with me, that's cool. I'm not offended by it. I'm not going to lose any sleep because you're not paying my mortgage. And so I think stuff like that is needed. You know what I mean? Now, for some people, if it rattles them, hey, y'all get on a panel together and do what y'all need to do. I'm not looking at what the comments are saying. So they must be going in. Something must be really
Nah. Just, you are wrong. I'm not trolling. No,
okay,
you
well,
are wrong.
No. See, you good. Go on, girl. You got this.
Okay, I don't care. But what I do want to say is like when things like this are discussed, we definitely want to be aware of the verbiage that we are using, right? Like in my case, my son's father was not absent because we got divorced, because he's in the military. So he has a whole job to do, right? So he was not absent. He still parents. He happens to deploy a lot, so he is not physically there. So,
I feel
and
that.
you have other people like that. Like my husband is not absent in his children's lives. He is not physically present, which is a difference. And so we just want to make sure that even if we're in complete opposition, that we're using words that translate over, right? Like the whole conscious parenting thing. Maybe I do conscious parent and I don't even know it, right? But really and truly, I hate the word woke. I hate all those people who do all of that.
It's been co-opted a good bit.
And
It's
that's my
been
point.
co-opted a lot, yeah.
And for me, I don't want my children to be like the culture, any culture. That's not the culture of God, but that's not other people's beliefs. And how you choose to raise your kids, hey, that works for you. But as for me in my house, I need you to follow these set things, these guidelines, and utilize your freedom within those parameters. Have an opinion within those parameters. Figure out who you are within those parameters in a life that is following Christ. For me in my house, what you do at your house, I don't control that. And so I can't tell you is right nor wrong. I could, but it's an argument that I'm not in the habit of arguing with people who aren't going to listen, which is why I don't get bothered by like trolls or people who have heavy opinions about a thing. Because I'm just not, that's not me. I'm not going to argue with somebody who already has a set standpoint, and we're not here to learn from each other. We're just here to say, no, my way of thinking is correct. And so, let's, always endeavor to just be respectful. They don't call me positivity for nothing.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, have opinions, feel how you feel, troll how you troll, whether you think you're trolling or not. I appreciate it. It's going to bring more viewers because you're going to tell somebody, hey, they were saying stupid stuff on this podcast and I went in. And your first going to be like, what did you go in on? And thank you for our viewings going up. And so I appreciate everybody who is a panelist tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope I did my homeboy Duryea justice. Like, that's been my friend since high school. So if you got a problem with him, you low-key got a problem with me. And so,
one suggestion I might have for future podcasts is maybe come in and have everybody define the topic right off the bat so that we can like all kind of know what we're talking about, so we aren't just coming in from like
Girl,
all
I forgot. I forgot. This is my first time.
No, it's okay, and you're great. I'm just saying for like future ones. Yeah, I mean we made it work.
Yeah,
so.
this is my first time. I missed a thing.
No, it's okay. We didn't do it last time either, so that's fine.
I wasn't there. But yeah, I was concerned about messing it up. I messed it up a little bit, but I hope everybody learned something.
You did great, T. You did great.
But again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have an awesome night, and I hope you got something out of the conversation.
All right.